Welcome to the Lovestead.
Hello! Welcome back to Lady Lovestead Reads. My name is Jessica and this is my August vlog. It is Wednesday, July 31st. As I kick off this vlog, we're in the middle of the Olympics. The Olympics! I love the Olympics. I have been watching them consistently, religiously since 1988. Okay, so I'm loving every minute of these games. It's so much fun. What have been your Olympic highlights so far if you watch them? Tell me down below, what are your Olympic highlights? For me, I loved the opening ceremony. I'm going to avoid getting into any of the discourse that's happening about the Olympic ceremony because it's creating a lot of sensitivities for people. But I'll just say that I loved it. It felt so French and I loved every minute of it. Other highlights for me so far have been naturally Simone Biles. What a freaking powerhouse she is. She's just incredible. I really liked seeing the men's gymnastics team get a medal, and just their overwhelming joy was just so wonderful. And then Snoop Dogg. I love Snoop Dogg and his coverage here because you know what Snoop Dogg is doing for me? Snoop Dogg is reminding me to find the fun in things because he does that, right? He just finds the good in people. He finds the fun in every situation. And just like his enthusiasm, he's like simultaneously so chill and enthusiastic at the same time. And it's like, I could learn a lot from Snoop. Okay, so tell me your Olympic moments down below. I'll share more as I watch more. And let's talk about what I'm currently reading. My big book, Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. I am halfway through. I made very little progress on this in the month of July. July was not a great reading month for me. I got kind of slumpy. I didn't have a lot of time to read, and I'm hoping to change that in August. My big reading goal for August is to finish this chunky baby. I am enjoying this, and I'll leave it at that for now. It's been a while since I've read it too. I've stepped away from it for several weeks. And so I'm going to have to get back into it before I can like refresh my brain about what I'm thinking and feeling and the characters and stories and all of that. But up till the point that I have read, I've enjoyed it. My book under 500 pages is currently, I take the cover off of it, but it is No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. This is an adult thriller. And in this book, we are given multiple points of view and multiple timelines. And what has happened is these parents are murdered. They're like this really wealthy family, and the parents were murdered, and all of the daughters, there's 3 daughters, and they're all suspects, and they're all hiding something about what happened that night. And we don't really know what happened that night. Now, the daughters are all adults now, and one of the daughters, Emma, is pregnant and her husband has just lost her job, so she needs to move back to the family house because they all still own this house between the 3 of them, and nobody's living there. It's just kind of sitting. So she and her husband move back to the family house, and when she moves back, it brings up all of this old feelings, emotions, and issues related to her parents' murder and what happened with her sisters after that murder. And then some things start happening, like their house, they struggle with some vandalism and things like that in the house, and it just gets a little bit more intense, and you know, questions are being asked. And the main character, I think, really is Emma, and she's trying to figure out what actually happened that night and how what happened that night is affecting her current reality and what's happening in her present. So there is, like I said, multiple points of view and multiple timelines. And some of that gets a little confusing for me because I haven't consistently sat down and read it. And I just didn't have time in July. I just didn't have time or energy. I ended up getting migraine, yada, yada, yada. So I have read it and set it down and stepped away for several days and then come back to it. And I'm just losing details because of that. And that's a me issue. It's not a book issue. But if you're interested in this, do know that it does require a little bit of consistency in your reading. It's not one you can pick up and put down. You've got to stick with it, and you've got to try to like carry all of these details in your head as you're reading, if that makes sense. But I do enjoy it, and I really like Kate Alice Marshall's writing. I think she's a very skilled writer. I think the characters are well developed so far, and I have no idea what's going on with this plot. Like, I have no idea. A lot of times with thrillers and mysteries, I get a good sense of who did it and am pretty regularly able to figure out the mystery and solve the riddle or whatever. I have no idea with this, and it's part because I'm just struggling to keep up with everything, and it's also in part just because it's really well written and it's convoluted and confusing, and you just don't know what's gonna happen. And I think for me that's a mark of a good thriller, right? The audiobook that I'm currently reading is Living the Dream at Puddleduck Farm by Della Galton, and this is book 4 in that Puddleduck series that I have been reading. If you're new here, I have been using my audiobooks as a method of regulating my nervous system. So audiobooks, I have mainly been turning to books in the cozy genre, whether it's cozy fantasy, cozy contemporary, or cozy mystery. And Puddleduck is more of a cozy contemporary series. I can't tell you a whole lot about specifically book 4 without spoiling things, but it is set on this rural England farm called Puddleduck, and the main character is Phoebe, and she is a veterinarian. So it's like just a day-to-day slice of life story in this serene environment with characters that have challenges in their life, but nothing too traumatic or over the top. And it's just like a very cozy escapism read. Now, book 4 did have something in it that was more triggering for me than I like in my cozy reads. But again, it could be a me issue, not a book issue. But it kind of starts off the story with this event, which was jarring for me. And it doesn't, like, there isn't anything like explicit that happens on page. It's more people's reactions to what happens. But it still was like, ooh, this is a little bit more painful than I want to read in a cozy series like this. And again, that could just be a me issue. Who knows? But that is what I'm currently reading. This is my Queen of Night orchid that I got after Pi passed. And it has a bloom. And you know what? Pi's birthday was in July. And this bloom sprouted in July. Okay, y'all. I need my creative, crafty brain trust to weigh in here. I have had this sitting around my office since last December. This is an advent calendar from Nespresso. Yeah. So it's the advent calendar I had last year from Nespresso. And it's got all these little doors and everything. There's no more coffee in there. I took everything out. But I kept it because I want to turn this into an enrichment toy for my rabbits. And I'm just not sure, like, I'm going to do it this month because it's just got to go. I can't sit in my office any longer. I am laying down the law. Anyway, what do you think? How should I do it? Like, how should I create a toy? So it's got these here, but I think the thing with this is these holes like go all the way into the middle of the box. And in the middle of the box is a bigger hole because there was a coffee mug that they put in the middle. And like, here's the access point. Oh, I've got some leaves in there from a plant. So how do you think I should do it? They have these sticks. So these are Timothy Hay treat sticks. And I'm like, I wonder if I can somehow finagle these maybe like into these holes
So they'll be able to eat the stick down to about here. And then we'll have to like play around with this to try to access the rest of it. Give me your ideas. How would you deck this out if you were turning it into an enrichment toy for rabbits?
Hello, it is Saturday, August 3rd, and I've finished a couple of books. First, I finished No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. I love the cover. You can see the house that all of this stuff takes place in. This makes the story sound or look a lot more gothic than it actually is, but I still like the cover. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think that I would enjoy a reread of this at a time when my brain feels a little less scattered and I have more time to sit down and consistently focus on it. I would probably pick up on a lot more positive things about this story in a reread. So it will stay on my shelves for now. And I think most of my issues with it just come from me not being in the best place mentally to be able to just sit down and focus on this book. This is a book that you can't set down and pick up again later. There's a lot of details you have to keep straight in your head consistently, I think, to really appreciate the story and the mystery of it. And I unfortunately wasn't able to do that, so my reading experience with it was less enjoyable than I think it would be if I did have a time to read this consistently, maybe just over the course of a couple of days rather than the course of a couple of weeks. So the rating is a reflection of me and my experience of it, and not necessarily of the quality of the work. I think the quality of this work is just under the other book I've read by her other adult thriller called What Lies in the Woods. Like, it's just under that. It's not quite there with that one. That one I gave 5 stars. This one felt a little less chewy is the best way I can describe it. I feel like the ideas that were covered in this weren't quite as thoughtful, not quite as philosophical as I tend to like in a thriller. I like a thriller that can get into some meaty topics and really explore them as ideas. And this was more plot driven and a little bit character driven. I would say it is equally plot driven and character driven. 50-50 balance almost perfectly, because you really get to know each character quite well, specifically the sisters. You know the sisters very well. They are distinct people, so it's not like you read a POV from one sister that sounds the exact same as the next sister. Like, the POVs did feel distinct, and like these people were individual people, which I can appreciate. That's hard to do as a writer, so I think that she was able to do that pretty well. It's not really tense in that there's a lot of action happening, but it is tense in that what's happening has major ramifications for these people's lives. And I like that. I don't know that everybody's going to like that. I think thriller readers a lot of times want to read something more action-packed and faster paced than this. I'd say this is more of a medium pace than a fast pace. But there is that tension in there that I think qualifies it as a thriller and not just like a contemporary literary fiction. Overall, I enjoyed it. I do think I will probably attempt to reread it at some point, probably not anytime soon. I think I will enjoy a reread of this most if I let enough time pass that I can't remember what it's about and then pick it up again. And I think that's how I will handle this one. It might be a few years out before I pick it up again, but I will give it another try. And like I said, 3.5 stars. I then went ahead and picked up, if you watch my August library haul, you know I picked up several poetry collections for the month. So I'm going to pick up Pretty Boys Are Poisonous by Megan Fox. And this is Megan Fox, the actress. Yes, she is married to Machine Gun Kelly. And in the introduction to this collection, she says that the purpose of these poems were to help her heal from being mistreated by men in her life. And I read the first poem, and It did give me chills, actually. I'm going into this with very low expectations. A lot of times I feel like celebrity poetry collections are just not great, but the first one gave me hope. So let me just read you the very first poem. It's called The Indoctrination of a Hopeless Romantic, and it's only 2 lines. It says, I used to believe love was a poem. That's the first line. Second line, now I know love is a killing spree. Okay, I'm interested. I do want to share this disclaimer though, that poetry is not my forte. Poetry is not something I am super knowledgeable on. It's not something I have a lot of experience with. When I did my English degree, I learned all about, you know, stanzas and iambic pentameter and form and all of that, but I don't remember a lot of that information, so I'm not the best person to be analyzing a poem. When I read a poem, I am more reading it in the same way you would read like a song lyric, more so to see, like, can I discern a story or a thread in the poem? Is the use of language beautiful? Does it hit me at an emotional level? So as I read poetry, and I go through these poetry collections this month, please know that I am not a poetry expert. And so if I give it a high rating, it's based on like me having some sort of emotional connection with the work, not necessarily me having the ability to analyze poetry as a form, if that makes sense. So if you are someone who really needs that kind of a review with poetry, you probably want to just skip over my reviews of poetry, because that is not something that I'm able to provide at this time. But I have read about 17 pages of this so far, and so far I think that she is decent. I would put her above Rupi Kaur but below Taylor Swift. Oh, that is such a terrible rating system. See, this again, it goes back to me just not having a lot of poetry background here. So take my ratings on this stuff with a grain of salt. You might read this and go, this is absolutely terrible, or this is a work of genius and Jessica completely missed it. So anyway, I am liking it so far. The only one that has really struck me and made me like pause and go, ooh, that one is the first one. But I think there will probably be more that get to me as I go along. The reason I think I'm going to pick up maybe the poetry collections is because I really want to get a good chunk of Clash of Kings read. I want to finish this month. I don't want to carry this over into another month, not because I'm not enjoying it, but just because I want to move on. Like, I need to move on to a different big book. This is only my 3rd book over 500 pages that I've read this year. I'm ready to move on. So I am going to make it a goal to get through this one this year, or this month. So I will focus most of my reading time on this one this week and intersperse it with poetry collection stuff, and you know, read a couple poems every day and then spend most of my time reading this. And then lastly, I did finish my audiobook, which was Living the Dream at Puddleduck Farm by Della Galton, and I gave it 3 stars. Probably my least favorite one in the series so far. There was a lot of miscommunication and just things that happened in this one that I wasn't a big fan of. And to my knowledge, this is the last one in the series. I think my friend Cajun might have mentioned there was another one after this one, but I don't know for sure. And if this was the last one, I didn't really like the way it wrapped everything up. So I do hope that there's another one in the series before everything is wrapped up. So probably my least favorite out of all 4 of the Puddleduck books that I have read so far. I gave it 3 stars because, like, in terms of quality, I felt like it was right in line with the other 3. I just didn't like it as much as the other 3. So the next audiobook that I'm going to pick up is a cozy mystery. It's called Lethal Licorice by Amanda Flower, and it is book 2 in the Amish Candy Shop mystery series. I will read you the description from Goodreads, but I will omit anything that could be spoilery. Harvest, Ohio is a long way from New York City, where Bailey King left a coveted job as a head chocolatier to take over Swissman Sweets, her Amish grandparents' candy shop. She plans to enter the annual Amish confectionery competition. Between lavender blueberry fudge and chocolate cherry ganache truffles, Bailey may have bitten off more than she can chew when the search for a missing pot-bellied pig turns up a body suffering from sugar overload, the fatal kind. This series has a pig in it. It's somebody's pet, and it's a pot-bellied pig, and he's always running around town, and he is a character in every single one of the books, and it's really, really funny. Like, he's adorable. But that is basically the setup for this one. At least that's what I can tell you without it being spoilery. It's like 1,000,000 degrees outside. Oh my gosh, it's so warm, and I miss my horse. I haven't been able to just spend time with Doll for like a week now. And this coming week, I might end up having to do jury duty. I got a jury summons, so I call in on Monday to see if I have to report for jury duty. So keep your crossables crossed for me that I don't have to report, or if I do, that it is a short and sweet trial, because I have a heavy workload right now, and the last thing I need is to be living like I've got 2 full-time jobs. So, and like, I don't mind doing jury duty. I really don't mind it. It just is a challenge because if I do jury duty, my grading deadlines are not going to change, right? Things are going to keep trucking along, and so I will have to be at jury duty from 8 to 5 and then come home and do a 5 to 9 every day that I have jury duty, and it's going to be difficult. Not even mentioning trying to get out and clean horse stalls and things like that. So I've been a little bit stressed about it. And again, like I said, I don't mind doing it. It's just the time crunch that it creates for me makes me a little bit anxious. Really late on the night of Friday, August 9th. It's 12:15 a.m. So I guess technically Saturday morning. And all week I have been reading this book, Clash of Kings. And I've gotten through a good chunk, almost 200 pages of it this week. And I am starting to feel myself burn out on it. And I don't want to burn out on it because I am enjoying it. It's just so long. And that is my tendency with long books. It doesn't matter if I'm enjoying them. Once they get past 500 pages, I burn out on them. 200 pages was a good chunk of reading for a week of reading. Especially since this has such tiny print. I don't know if you can see how tiny that is. So I think I'm going to call it good on this for the week and at least take a little break from it and pick up something different. Now I have been rotating and reading this, but poetry is not the same as fiction. It doesn't do the same thing for my brain as fiction does. So I need to pick out a new book, and I need to pick it out tonight before bed. I'm having bad pain. I know you can't see it in my face because I mask very well, but I don't think I'm going to sleep well tonight because I'm having pretty intense pain. So I want to pick out something I can read before I try to sleep, and then have something that I can read if I'm unable to sleep because the pain is too much. Sure, I don't know if I want to do something from my Kindle Unlimited, but I do want to go ahead and take a look at my bookshelves and maybe bring you with me, see if we can pick something out together.
And in the darkness, that is 12:30 a.m., it's kind of hard to see my shelves very well, but we'll work with it, right? Okay, you know what? Automatically catching my eye. I got this after watching one of Storm's video at Storm Reads. She's really into retro romances, and she collects them because she really likes the covers. So anyway, she was talking about this one in particular, and she talked about how it's a historical that has some slightly gothic vibes to it, and that sounded really interesting to me, so I found a super cheap copy. It's like 50 cents online somewhere. So this is a strong contender, actually, because I'm kind of in the mood, having been working on Clash of Kings, which takes a lot of brain power. I'm kind of in the mood for something that doesn't require a lot of brain power. Plus, with a bad pain flare, it helps if I don't have to think too much about what I'm reading. So definitely a contender. And you know what? My middle grade, which is this, here's my middle grade shelf. These are some contenders as well. I have read most of these. I have not read Republic of Birds or The Girl Who Speaks Bear. And I've not read the second and third Frostheart books. But before I read 2 and 3, I do need to reread or at least skim through the first one and remind myself just what the first one was like. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm in the mood for a middle grade. Let's keep looking. Some fantasy options here. Here's my Tess Gerritsen shelf. Those of you who've been around know how much I love her. That is actually an option. I have not read this one, and I have not read all of the standalones. Actually, let me pull a standalone. Girl Missing is a standalone that I'm interested in. This could be an option. Okay. That's Miss Cherry, if you're hearing me meowing. Cherry. Hello, baby. Hello. You're so pretty. Yeah. Classics shelf. I have some really beautiful classics. I'm not in the mood for a classic. That requires too much brain power. And then Book of the Month shelf. Also not in the mood. Most of my Book of the Months are thrillers or like lit fic. Not really in the mood for that. I think I'm going to stick with these two. And maybe I'll do like a try a chapter option and see which one feels better. Look at my fish. My goldfish.
Hi, hello. It is Thursday, August 15th. I forgot the date there for a second. And I wanted to do a check-in, obviously. I I've been reflecting on my summer because I think summer's coming to a quick end here. The weather's starting to like really cool off and it smells like fall outside, and you know, school's gonna be starting up soon and all of that. And summer for me has been kind of disappointing, and it's gotten me a little down recently because I had some kind of fun things planned. Like I was going to go to this festival called Murray Fest, and I was going to go see a local production of Rent, and I was going to try to get and go to tickets to see Chapel Roan, and like there was just a lot of fun stuff I was thinking of doing, and it hasn't really worked out. And instead what's happened this summer was I've had multiple chronic illness flare-ups, some scary medical issues for my sweet dogs, and a broken foot. And I am feeling disappointed about it, but I'm trying to stay positive and like count my blessings and be like, okay, there's still like so much to be thankful for, like so much to be thankful for. Like I live a really, really good life. And at the same time, I think it's okay to like process being disappointed that some things I was looking forward to didn't work out. And I think that like one of the things that I struggle with, just in terms of like sharing with y'all, is not coming across as someone who can't read the room or someone who is out of touch with how people are really struggling right now in the world, and coming across as someone who is like super spoiled and privileged and that kind of thing. It's really important to me that I always remain aware of the privileges that I do have and not be a spoiled brat about things. But at the same time, I don't want to invalidate my own self and how I might be feeling about certain things, because a lot of the stuff I was looking forward to this summer weren't like super extravagant or anything like that. It was just it was like my chronic illness getting in the way and things, and so I think that those are valid feelings too. But I don't ever want to make somebody like feel like, gosh, what's she complaining about? Like she's got it good. Like I know I've got it good, y'all. Like I know I have a lot of blessings and I have a lot to be thankful for. And two things can exist at the same time. Like I can be aware and thankful that I have a really good life, and also feel disappointed that my chronic illness has stopped me from doing some things that I wanted to do this summer. So I don't know. I just, you know, when you have an online platform and your audience can be literally anybody, like I'm always trying to think about like how what I do here makes people feel. And I don't ever want people to feel judged or overlooked or invalidated or anything like that, because I do understand that comparatively I've got a great life, and that there are folks out there that are struggling with way more serious things than the things that I struggled with this summer. Anytime that I complain or I express negative feelings, please know that those two things can coexist. I always am aware that, yeah, I am a very privileged, lucky person. But I also think it's okay for people who are in privileged positions to still experience and express struggle, and because that's valid too. And like I want to also open it up for people who maybe feel like yeah, I've got a great life, but I do have these struggles. Like it's okay to talk about your struggles, because you can appreciate the life that you have while still expressing and dealing with your feelings in legitimate and healthy ways. And I'm trying to remind myself of that, because I get into that funk too, where I'm like, I've got a good life. Like, why should I be feeling this way? It's because I'm mentally ill. That's why. You know, anybody with any kind of life can experience mental illness, and mental illness is valid. Depression is valid no matter who you are, no matter the life that you're living. guess that's what I'll say about that for now. Shall we do a little reading update? Last time I checked in, I think I had finished Pretty Boys Are Poisonous. I can't honestly remember, but I was in the mood to read something other than Game of Thrones. And so I had taken you on a tour of my bookshelves, and the book that I settled on at the time was Secret for a Nightingale by Victoria Holt. So I'll read you the back of this. It says, as a young girl in India, beautiful, high-spirited Susanna Playdell first becomes aware of her special gifts to soothe the sick, but she puts aside her dream of helping others when she meets the dashing and sophisticated Aubrey St. Clair. But Aubrey is not at all what he seems. Back home in London, Susanna finds out that the man she has married has a weakness for opium and the occult. Even more frightening is his strange association with Dr. Damien Adair, a powerful man with a sinister hold over her husband. Damien Adair is a character name I know I have heard before, and it is going to bother me until I figure out what it is. So stay tuned, because I'm going to figure it out. When tragedy strikes, it is Damien whom Susanna holds responsible, even as she fulfills her ambition of becoming a nurse, following Florence Nightingale to the Crimea. It is Damien who haunts her dreams and fills her mind, who holds the key to her most sinister secret of all. So this just sounds so scandalous and something that I'm really gonna like. And I did start reading it. I read about 8 pages and I did enjoy it, but it's a fairly dense book, and it's kind of a longer romance read. And the writing style is one that does require you to think a little bit about what you're reading. And I just don't have the brain power for it right now to read this, which requires the brain power in combination with this. Right now, I am doing a lot of stuff with work that's requiring so much brain power. So I can only handle like one book that I really have to think of outside of work at a time. And so I am not going to read this right now, but I will read it at some point because it just, I don't know, it sounds so good. I did instead pick up a book on my Kindle, which is Twisted Love by Anna Huang, and this is a grumpy sunshine romance is what it's pitched as, but it is about, if I could remember the characters' names. I can't remember their names, but the male love interest is like this billionaire, super grumpy guy. Interestingly, he has this condition with his memory where he can remember absolutely everything about his life in like perfect detail. Let me look up what it's called. Okay, on page 34, he says, I have hyperthymesia, highly superior autobiographical memory. That is really interesting. That makes his character really interesting. And then the female love interest is like a college age woman, and her older brother is leaving for some sort of trip to South America. And while he's gone, he has asked this guy to basically watch out for her. And so he moves in next door, and they don't get along the best, but there's obviously some attraction going on. And I'm really not that far into it. I'm like 30 pages into it so far, but so far it is kind of scratching that itch of needing something that's not hard to read, like something that's just easily digestible. So Alex is the male character, Josh is the brother, Ava is the main female protagonist. So it's Alex and Ava. And then I finished Lethal Licorice by Amanda Flower, which is book 2 in the Amish Candy Shop series. And I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed this one. I think this series is kind of falling into that trap that sometimes happens with cozy mysteries where you start to wonder how many murders can happen in one small town, right? But overall, I really like her writing. I really like getting to know and learn more about the Amish community in this book series and just more about like that lifestyle and that culture. I find that really, really fascinating. And then there's a pet pot-bellied pig in this named Jethro, and he is just absolutely adorable. I just love him so much, and he's like a character. Like, he helps move the plot forward in these stories, and it's just so cute and heartwarming. It is a cozy, and it's got those cozy elements where she's a candy maker, so she's in the shop making candy, and there's like wholesome family connections and that kind of thing. And this was definitely book 2. The one that I read last month, Criminally Coco, was not book 1.5. I think my Hoopla has them out of order, and I need to follow what's on Goodreads instead of Hoopla, because in Criminally Coco, Bailey and her cousin Charlotte are in New York filming this show, but in book 2, which comes after that, she's meeting Charlotte for the first time. So when I looked at Goodreads, it actually lists Criminally Coco as book 3.5 instead of 1.5, so my Hoopla is incorrect. But yes, she meets Charlotte, her cousin, for the first time, and Charlotte is a really interesting character. And she is in the process of going through her Rumspringa, which is where she has to decide whether or not she's going to stay with the Amish church. And so getting to kind of work through her decision-making process on that is interesting, because it's another like cool insight into Amish communities. I know there was like a reality TV show about young people in Amish communities and their Rumspringas and how out of control they get and all of that. But, you know, reality TV always like over dramatizes things, and it's not necessarily accurate representations of cultures. So I like this book and how they're going about discussing that process and how Charlotte's feeling about it and the things that she has to weigh and consider, and it's really interesting. I will continue on to book 3 probably next month, and then the next audiobook I'm picking up is French Pressed by Cleo Coyle, which is book 6 in the Coffee House Mystery series. I don't have my phone with me, otherwise I would read you the description. That's just gonna have to wait for another day.
I think it's safe to say I have not yet mastered sourdough. I found a sourdough recipe that you can put in the bread machine using your sourdough starter. And this should be like a full loaf, and it's tiny, so I'm guessing it did not rise one iota. Yeah, that is dense AF. There's like no bubbles, next to no bubbles in that. Sourdough people. I should say bakers, sourdough bakers. Based on this, what do we call it? Crumb? Crust? Bubble reed? I don't even know. Based on this. Help! What do I do? Why do I suck at this so bad?
video. It is Sunday, September 1st. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up my August vlog. I ended up getting pretty sick towards the last few weeks of August. I don't totally know what's going on, but I am seeing doctors and we're gonna figure it out and it will be fine. I did read some books. I'm not gonna take the time right now to talk about them. One, because I don't have a ton of energy, and two, because I don't remember which ones they were. So just watch for it in my August wrap up. That'll be coming up here in September. And I haven't really done anything these past few weeks other than just survive. So if you want to leave me an emoji to let me know that you are here, leave me any kind of flower emoji, since it's like the last, in my head, month of summer. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye!